Talk. Today we're going to be discussing some recent legislation regarding the intersection of company dress codes and natural hairstyles. The Crown Act gets its name from the acronym CROWN and stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. The Crown Act just passed the House of Representatives on September 21st, and it prohibits discrimination based on a person's hair texture or hairstyle, if that style or texture is commonly associated with a particular race or national origin. Specifically, the bill prohibits this type of discrimination against those participating in federally assisted programs, housing programs, public accommodations, and employment, which is why we're discussing it today. And there have been some developments also in our fair state of Missouri. And I'm going to kick it over to Camille. Tell us about what came across your radar the other day coming from Kansas City.
Well, I saw that their city council passed the Crown Act for Kansas City, Missouri, which prohibits discrimination based on a race on certain hairstyles.
Like what kind of hairstyles? I mean, that can be anything, would it be blonde? Would it be, colored hair? Is it textured hair? What are they talking about?
Well, I would say off the top of my head, I just that it would probably be their braids, cornrows, dreadlocks, to name a few.
Very good. Yeah, interesting. So, Candida, you've done some research here because you're a big research guru.
Yeah, some research that was funded by the beauty company, Dove. We've all heard of Dove. Black women are 80% more likely to change their natural hairstyle at work, and they're also more likely to be sent home from work because their hairstyle is not meeting the company's dress code. So you can see there's that potential for a disparate treatment situation there. So, this brings to mind the fact that when we're thinking about what can employers do, even though the law may not be in effect where you are doing business yet, so we got to keep in mind the Crown Act passed the House, but it hasn't passed the Senate, and it hasn't passed, gotten the president's signature. So it's not law yet, but Kansas City now has this law. So even if you're not a Kansas City employer, and so for whatever reason it's not in effect where you're doing business yet, employers might want to go above and beyond for their employees just as a best practice and adopt similar attitudes toward natural hairstyles just to be more inclusive. And this is becoming a national legal trend, and maybe it's been a long time coming for people to not have to dramatically alter their appearance when they're genetically predisposed to have hair of a certain texture that more naturally lends itself to certain hairstyles. So, let's dig into that. Why do employers tend to have policies regarding strict conformity to an established norm for hair?
Yeah, do you think that it's representing, their company image in a certain way? Why are employers doing that? And, as we're out every day and we're visiting with employers and they're, revising their handbooks or reviewing their policies, what have you guys come across? Have you ever seen that? Is it industry related, like typically, office, white collar, banking, financial? What are you guys seeing?
The more conservative companies, right?
Right. I was going to say I'm seeing definitely some relaxation on some dress codes, and I think this falls right into line with that, on companies kind of having to relook at some of their policies and procedures, kind of like years ago with tattoos.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It wasn't long ago that tattoos were just taboo, and if you had one, you better cover it at work, right?
Right.
No, I took a vacation about 3 years ago in Florida, and we went at an off time. It was like school wasn't out, so there were a lot of families there, and they were younger families, so families of not quite school-age kids. And so everyone's there, in their swimsuits and showing a lot of skin, and I was like, oh my goodness, everyone has a tattoo. And we're talking like the 20, 30-year-old parents, like literally everyone had a tattoo. And it really struck me because, if our customers are the populations of people like the ones I saw at the beach, then visible tattoos on some of our employees might help form connections rather than be a source of disconnection with our customers. So our customers are more accepting of tattoos, and businesses are starting to adjust their codes to come in line there. So.
No, I agree. And I know that, not only tattoos or hairstyles and, this doesn't relate, but, initially I talked about like we're seeing really funky, blues and purples. And I can understand why that's restrictive because that's not natural hairstyle, right? Or even like piercings. That used to be a thing as well, as facial piercings and I personally am seeing employers be a little bit more lax, even in banking, because if they're not, they may potentially restrict the number of employees that they can hire or reduce, their workforce significantly. And people ultimately want to be their own and expression and so forth. And there's certain boundaries, of course, that's going to be permissible or what have you, but definitely, seeing those. As far as takeaways, that we've seen multiple states that are taking hold of this. And now we've got the city ordinance in Kansas City, Missouri, that's closer to, our footprint where we primarily do business. I feel like we should be mindful as we're reviewing, employee handbooks and making sure we're incorporating that into the dress code. If there's anything about, particular hairstyles, need to be mindful of that. Also, need to be mindful not only dress code, but social media and not, being making inappropriate comments, based on those hairstyles, because quite frankly, we all know as women, I know I like to change the color of my hair or hairstyle or what have you. And if one day one person comes in and now they've got new, trends that is, pertinent to their authenticity, we were going to embrace it, and not to restrict it and be discriminatory potentially. What do you guys feel about that? Are you finding that too as we're reviewing handbooks, and that's primarily something we need to be watching for? Yeah, we do a lot of harassment training, with HR Advantage, as you guys know, and October is kind of the month of anti-discrimination and diversity. And we felt, as we were talking about this, preparing for this coffee talk, that this would be real appropriate to bring this on people's radar. And I know even in conversations every day with employers, I've been mentioning this Crown Act, and they're like, the what act? What are you talking about? So, we are in the region, of the United States where we're a little bit slower to kind of pick up on trends. And so I think it's an obligation, for us to make sure that we realize and educate, employers of this trend and this act, that is happening. So
what we can do to help our organizations become more inclusive. And to me, this is a no-brainer. Why not open your doors to all the fabulous hairstyles out there and be more inclusive? And you just might see that your customers appreciate it. They appreciate seeing a company that reflects the community that they live in.
Absolutely. Good. Yeah, very good. Well, great discussion, team. I love this. Do you guys have anything else that we should be sharing or talking about on Coffee Talks here today? All right. Well, we're going to be, putting out there information about, anti-discrimination, diversity, inclusion type information for employers. So stay tuned and be watching for our next Coffee Talks. Thank you for tuning in.
Bye.